Okay, so this is going to be kind of an introduction to my PA Plow Day prep video. So I made the executive decision that I'm going to be swapping the 3-point off my 322, and I'm going to make my 87 318 my main plow rig for this year. So as you can see, it's going to take a lot to get her ready, but I got all the parts. So I've basically got my work cut out for me. I'm going to start with removing the 38-inch deck, and shortly after I'm going to be installing the 3-point off my 322. Put that on there about 2 years ago, so it shouldn't take me much to swap it off. And my footage will include basically a time lapse of me working on this. Alright, so I started with removing the 3-point hitch off the 322. This is an original, like OEM style John Deere 3-point hitch. It's not like an aftermarket one. It's in really good shape. I found this off Craigslist around 2 years ago. Put it a wanted ad up because I couldn't find one, and this one popped up. This guy had it on his 318, and he was looking to get rid of it, and it was about 10 minutes away from my house, so it was kind of a nice deal. It worked out pretty well. So I put this on this tractor in April of 2016, and here we are 2 years later. I'm removing it. Here I am removing the turf tires off it, putting on a mismatched set of 23 by 10.5 ags. Just in case I would need this to swap the 3-point back on it in case my 318 had issues. Just a good peace of mind to have these on there, so that's why I put them on. Alright, so next it was time to dig into the 318. The first task I had to tackle on it was a head gasket issue. So a little while after I installed the Linimar in it in the fall of 2017, it had developed a problem where it would sound like compression hissing or escaping when I would shut the engine off. And the guy who sold the engine to me told me he had the heads off to just inspect the engine and before I purchased it, and he said he had reinstalled and torqued the heads. So I'm not sure whether he didn't take a look at the condition of the head gaskets or improperly torqued the head. I'm not sure about that. So once I got the head off, it was pretty evident where the hissing noise was coming from, and also there was some soot that was on the cylinder fins. So sure enough, I found the gasket was blown right there. Okay, so the guy I bought this from, he said he had the heads off it at one point, but I don't know, what he knows about these things. But I was having this issue where on my right-hand cylinder head, I'd be getting a lot of soot by the bottom of it, by the bottom front or the bottom right, as you look at it on the tractor, and it looks like he either put it on
with the blown head gasket, or blew the head gasket. But as you can see there, that's exactly where it blew, and that also happens to be right in front of the cylinder head. So I'm gonna replace that. So I've just been meaning to getting around to do this, but before I take this tractor to a big event, I wanted to make sure I have my head gaskets are in good working order. So as you can see there, pretty evident where it blew.
So before replacing the head gasket, I decarboned the piston valves and the cylinder head, as you can see. And I made sure the new gasket fit in there right and wasn't being uh, pinched or anything. And after hand tightening the bolts, I went to torque them, but unfortunately my phone memory ran out, so I didn't get that part on film. Next, I pulled the 318 in the garage and removed the 38-inch deck to get ready to install the 3-point hitch on it. So looking at the rock shaft mounting bolts on this, it looked like there were no wrench marks and that no one ever took this rock shaft off, so I assumed that this tractor had never had a 3-point hitch installed on it, however, and this was the first time taking those off, so I thought that was pretty neat. So I normally don't remove a fender pin when I put a 3-point hitch or remove a 3-point hitch from a tractor, but in this case I did. I needed to install or wire up really my harness for my fender lights, which you'll see later in this video. And also, I just think without the fender pin on, it just gives me more room to work around the wheels and whatnot, and just overall more access. After I got the 3-point rock shaft on and working correctly, I then got ready to install the lower arm brackets. And I also believe that the hitch plate has never been removed off this tractor before. Also, I decided to leave the hitch plate on once I got the lower arm brackets installed, and it seemed to clear the anti-sway change just fine. Alright, so next it was time to change the oil. I usually change mine every 40 to 50 hours, and this engine had hit the 40-hour mark, so I just started to start fresh for plow day. And in this thing I run Rotella 15W40, and I run that in most of my tractors, and I really like it. It's good stuff. Alright, then I started swapping the wheels and tires out. So on the rear I swapped out the stock turf tires, which are 23 by 10.5, to Carlisle Tru Power 26 by 12 by 12s, and these tires and rims were originally off a 455. And then for the fronts, I purchased some brand new Vredstein V61s, which are 18 by 8.5s, and I mounted these on 420 rims. And let me tell you, I've been looking at these tires for a while and finally bought them. I'm so happy I did. I just think the look of them complements the Ag so well, and the ribs also provide for better steering in dirt. Then it was time to mount my seat suspension to the fender pan. So this fender pan and seat suspension were off a John Deere 430, and the reason I'm putting a different fender pan on is because my original one, my battery leaked and the acid got on the paint, and I repainted some spots, and I just didn't like the way the mismatched paint looked when I sprayed it. So I decided to go with an original looking 430 fender pan, which is also off a 1987 model, so the paint matched up really well. I was really happy with that. And this one also has the cutouts for the high-low range lever and the diff lock, and that gives me the option in the future if I ever want to swap a 420 430 rear end in there, I can do that. And it's funny, this thing also has the diesel decal right by the filler neck, so it's kind of funny, but yeah, I was really happy with how that turned out. Next, it was time to set up and wire up my new LED work lights. So I decided to mount two on each side of the fender and one in the rear, as well as one underneath the right hand footrest to light up the furrow. And this year I just really set out to go above and beyond the setup I had last year for Friday night plowing. I really didn't like my setup last year. It wasn't anything really much. So this year I wanted to make this 318 really bright. And here you see I am soldering all the connections. I prefer soldering over connectors, and I just think it's a much more solid connection. And the red stuff is the heat shrink. So once I got all those soldered up and all the heat shrink on, they seem to be working well, and I was happy with how they came out. Then it was time to install my new headlights. So I purchased the tractor LEDs and also a new headlight lens, because my old lens was just really frosted and faded, and I was like, well, if I'm putting new LEDs, might as well put a new lens in and really dress the front of it up. So there are the LEDs, and the install is pretty simple. There's not much to it, and you can see the old lenses compared. So once I got those in and all the connections on, they're really working well. I'm really happy I purchased them. And then I was on the home stretch, just buttoning the rest of the machine up. I put the grill in, and here I was putting the side panels back on, and it was really starting to come together. Okay, last but certainly not least was my Brindley plow. This was probably one of the most important parts of this whole prep. So I purchased this plow in 2015 from Jim Schneider, and he had restored this plow, and it was just immaculate. But yeah, as you can see, I've used it a season, and the paint still held up really well on the whole frame, so I'm happy with that. So all the plow really needed was some grease, and the adjustments I really couldn't do until I had it up at plow day in the dirt, so had to wait to do those. But yeah, I really like this plow. It's great. The tractor pulls it well, and just really happy with it. Talk about blinded by the light. Here's the 318 all finished up. Got my LEDs in replacement of the stock 1156 bulbs from Tractor LEDs. Got a new lens as well. The old lens was pretty frosted over, so thought if I'm going new LEDs, why not replace the lens as well. Got my 4 LED work lights, wired them all up today. And got my under footrest light. Thought I'd put one under there for some light in the furrow. But yeah, this fender pin is off a 430, an 87 430. So the paint's original, just like my 318 paint, and my 318 is also an 87. So I was looking long and hard for a fender pin that would match mine, because
I was tired of looking at mine. I had the paint here because way back when I bought this tractor, my battery leaked. So I wanted something with pretty much all original paint all around. And I finally found what I'm looking for. The seat and the deluxe seat suspension are also off the 430. Don't know how well you can see that. But yeah, this one does have the cutout for the high-low range lever and the diff lock down there. Can't really see it. But I don't know, it tempts me to possibly swap a 420 for 30 rear end here in the future. I'll just have to cut out my frame for the linkages. But oh yeah, also I got my new V61s. These are 18 by 8.5s. And I got my 26 by 12 by 12 Carlisle Tru Powers on the rear. So this thing has pretty much transformed, and very happy with how it came out. Gonna have a look from the front. Put a new grill emblem on it too. But she's ready to roll on the PA Plow Day. Thanks for watching.